Good afternoon, my YouTube viewers. It's Crystal here. This video is going to be the 5th lesson of my advanced Excel course. And then so basically, it's also going to be the last lesson of the advanced Excel course. But this lesson number 6 was supposed to just do real world examples. And I'm giving you real world examples during the course of the lessons. So since I have given you real world examples during the course, and I'm going to be giving you real world examples now, we're not going to have a lesson number 6. We're just going to have a lesson number 5. And lesson number 5, what we're going to talk about is VBA. Now, VBA stands for Visual Basics for Applications. And so what you might be interested to know is VB, Visual Basic, is like maybe over 35 years old. So when they started making programming languages such as BASIC, a programmer, he developed Visual Basic, which was based on graphics. And so rather than having to know how to do computer programming, then what you did was you had graphics and you made a computer program with graphics. And that's why they called it Visual Basic. But as computer programs became more sophisticated, it wasn't suitable to write a program using graphics. But Microsoft bought Visual Basics, and then so what they did was they converted Visual Basics to VBA, which is Visual Basic for Applications, and they put it in Excel and their other Microsoft products. So Visual Basics, VBA, is no longer visual. It's no longer graphics based, but they still kept the name. So I thought that would be interesting for you, that you might like to know how VBA got its name. So if you've taken my previous courses, such as my basic Excel course and my intermediate Excel course, then you should know how to get into Excel already. You should know how to open a file, create a file, modify a file, file a file, and delete a file, anything that you need to do. So we're not going to cover that in this course. We're just going to, in this lesson, we're going to just get directly to VBA. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go into Excel. And I took Excel out because I have an old computer. I need a new computer, really. And my computer, if it's too memory intensive, it has a lot of problems. So I closed down Excel when I went to my day job today. So I'm going back into Excel, and we're going to hope for the best. So I'm going to go into the Advanced Excel course, which is where I'm keeping a lot of the files. So we're just waiting for it to actually come up. So it's just taking a little while for it to actually come up. And it says it's not responding, so I hope it responds soon. But that's what it says. It's done something, so it's come up. So what we're going to do now, if you watch my other lessons, my other videos, what we're going to do now is, since at the end of this video, I will have finished the lesson. So I'm just going to go ahead and say 27 AUG 26. And then we're going to say it took 1 day to do it. And the reason why it took me 1 day to do it is because I have already written programs in VBA for my day job. And so I've just modified those programs. So you can see my little timeline. So this is my timeline. And so basically we're not going to have a lesson 6. Lesson 6 says that you use real world examples, and I have used real world examples. What I'm going to be doing in this lesson is real world examples. So we're not going to be using lesson 6. So we're on lesson 5 now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into VBA. And as you know, that's Visual Basics for applications. So you're going to go into your developer. If you haven't got developer on Excel, then you go into your file, and then you go to options, and then you go to add-ins. And then it should say the developer in there. So you should get the developer in the add-ins. But developer should be in there. See what it says. Excel add-ins. Let's say Excel add-ins. Let's say COM add-ins. Say actions. But developer should be in there. Let's go to customize ribbon. So you can customize your ribbon. So here it is. You go to customize ribbon. So I don't do it very often because I had installed developer a long time ago. But you go to customize ribbon, and then you click onto developer. And then if you click onto developer, that will give you your developer tab, because you need to be in developer to actually make VBA programs. And you can make macros, but I'm not going to do a macro in this lesson. And the reason why is, me personally, I find macros very hard to work with. And then when you make a macro, it's still saved in VBA. It is still saved in VBA when you make the macro. A long time ago, whenever I first started using Excel, I tried to make macros, and the macros change. So we're not going to do a macro in this lesson. We're just going to do a VBA. So what I can do is, what we'll do here is we'll say easy macro. We're going to say easy macro. And then so what we're going to do is we're going to say F5. We're going to go to F5. And then so we're going to say insert developer. We're going to say a macro, and then you're going to say we're going to say record macro. So we're going to call this we're going to say easy macro. And you can assign a short key to it if you want, but there's lots of short keys. And you're going to say, you can say in this workbook, personal macro workbook, new workbook, we'll say in this workbook, and say this is an example of how to create a macro. This is an example. So we're going to say, okay. So we're going to say And then, so what we can do is we can, and we can stop recording. And then, so we're going to delete it. We're on F5. So we can like make a button in Developer. We can say insert a button right here. And so we're going to insert it here. And then we're going to say easy macro. Easy macro. Okay. So we're going to edit it. And then we're going to embolden it. We're going to embolden it. And then we're going to say, so we've got run easy macro. So it should go on F4, I think. So we're going to click on to run easy macro. And then there you go. That's your macro. It's going to be on F6. So we're going to delete it. And we're going to run it again. So that's how you can run an easy macro. And so basically what you have done is you have recorded a macro and then you have stopped recording it and you saved it. And then so we're going to go into Visual Basic. And then we're going to look at our modules. And we're going to say Module 1. And that's easy macro. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the name to easy macro. Easy underscore macro. And then you're going to save it. So now you've got easy macro. And then what we can do is we can go back into it. So if you want to, it says this is what it looks like. It's not what you did, but it looks like what it looks like. And it's telling you that it's a macro. So range F5, select active cell formula R1C1. It says a very easy macro for demonstration purposes. Range 6 is select. So another thing that we can do is we can go into Word, because that's where I keep the code for my macros, is in Word. So we're going to look at VBA Hello World. So you can say, we're just going to copy and paste this. So we're going to say, so range F5, font name is Arial, and we're going to say range F5, font name is bold. So we're going to go back to, we're not going to have underline. We're going to say, again, we're going to say underline, font size is 20, color is blue. So we're going to copy that. So we're going to say, range font size is 20, range color is blue, and then we're going to say wrap text is false. So I'm going to try this. It's completely off the cuff. So you're going to save it. We're going to save our work. And then we're going to call up the page that we were on. So we're going to delete this. We're going to clean this. So we're going to say run easy macro. Says the macro may not be available or all macros may be disabled. So that's not true. So what we're going to do is we're going to save it. I don't know why it says it can't run it. So it ran it, a very easy macro for presentation purposes. But it says select font name as Arial, bold is true, italic is true. Oh, so that's why it didn't work. F, 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 F. So we're going to save it. So we're going to try it again. We're going to run it. And so we run it. Okay, so we're going to clear it again. And we're going to run easy macro. It says you can't run it. May not be available or all macros may be disabled. So you can see what happened. I ran the macro and it is a macro. It is a macro. But when I changed it to make it, just to make it where you can run the macro, it won't let you do it. So we're going to, we're just going to cut it. So see, that's one of the problems that you have with macros and why I'm not really keen on macro. So you can record a macro. And then, but if you record the macro, then you might not be able to run it again. But let's just try this. We're going to do insert. We're going to do another button. And we're going to say easy macro. Okay. We're going to embolden it. We're going to make the what we're going to do is we've got color is black. So let's make color blue. And so that's all I can do with the font at the moment. So let's try to run it again. So I ran it again. So what I had to do was I had to delete the button because obviously I had made some changes to the macro, and then install the button again. So this is just, I'm just showing you one of the reasons why I'm not crazy about macros, but you can see for yourself how I've made a macro. And if you want to do a macro, you can go ahead and do a macro. But if you make changes to the code in the macro, then the button's not going to work. So you're going to have to delete the button and run the button again. So that's our macro. That's our easy macro. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually make a VBA formula. So a macro is actually written in VBA, but when you do a macro, you do everything on the keyboard. So because you're doing everything on the keyboard, it means that you don't really need to know how to do any programming because everything is done on the keyboard. But when you make a module, you have to actually know programming. And so that's the difference between a macro and a module. So I'm going to show you how to make a module in VBA. So we've got a hello world. So we've got here in our modules, we've got analyze figures, KG, you will be going over that. We've got easy macro, we've already gone over that. We've got I love VBA, and we've got a short training report. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually make a macro. So the first thing that you want to do is when you call up VBA, so what you want is you want to be in developer. And then when you're in developer, you're going to Visual Basic, because that's what you're using. You're using Visual Basic, but this is a really modified version of Visual Basic. I mean, 40 years ago, when I was taking computer courses through the University of Maryland, I took a basic course. And then when you had a basic course, then every piece of code, every line of code was preceded by a number. And then so then you, because every line of code was preceded by a number, then you could get into something called spaghetti code. But then what they did is nowadays they changed BASIC, so it's not preceded by a number. And then I remember this was a long time ago, 40 years ago. It was, you'd say go to. And then so you'd go to this number, and then it would go to the number, and then it would execute the type of code. But that was 40 years ago. And then basically what they did was they got involved in modular programming and object-oriented programming. And so programming has progressed through leaps and bounds since 40 years ago when I was taking BASIC. So what we're going to do is just show you how to, now how to get into Visual Basic. You have to be in developer, and you have to click on to Visual Basic. That's going to take you into Visual Basic, which is VBA. And then so what we want to do is we want to create a module and call it Hello World. So first thing you want to do is you want to view. So you want to make sure that you're viewing the project and the properties. Those are two things that you need to be viewing. So make sure that your project and your properties you're viewing those, because you need to view those when you write a program. And then you're going to insert a module, because it's going to be a module. So now what I've done to prepare is I've got my code already. So since I've got my code already, I'm just going to copy and paste the code so you can see what I've done. So you copy and paste the code, but in real life, you would actually be making the code. But in order to prepare for this video, I'll copy and paste the code. So it says sub hello world. So you come over here where it says module, and you give it a name, and you call it hello world. So you call it hello world, and we're going to save it. And then so this is the code. It says worksheets add. It says range E5. That's E5 on the spreadsheet. Value equals hello world. Range E5, the font name is Arial. Range E5, the font is bold, is true. Range E5, font underline is true. Range E5, font italic is true. Range E5, font size is 20. Range E5, font color is VB blue. Range E5, orientation is 45, so that's 45 degrees. And range E5 is wrap text is false. So we're going to save this, and then we're going to go to the triangle and we're going to run it. But hold on, I'm going to cancel this out a second. I'm going to close this just so I don't overwhelm my computer. And we're going to go to Hello World. So we're going to run it in Hello World. So you go to the triangle, and we're going to click on to Hello World, and we're going to run. And there you go. There's your Hello World. But I just want to check something out. So we're going to look at the code again. And so you have to add a worksheet. So what you're doing in this one is you're adding a worksheet. And so if you don't want to add the worksheet, we're just going to make this a comment like that. And we're going to save it. So now that's what this program did. It added a worksheet, but we're just going to take the Hello World out. So we're in Hello World again. So we're going to go back to Visual Basic. And so we've got a little quotation mark in front of add worksheet, and the quotation mark in front of add worksheet means it's not going to add a new worksheet. What it's going to do is going to type hello world on the existing worksheet. So we save it and we run it, and so you can see that it has typed hello world on the existing worksheet. But if you want to put it in a new worksheet, then you just take the worksheet add, and then you take the quotation mark away from the worksheet add. What the quotation mark does is it lets you know that it's actually a comment. So we've done that. So we're going to do a program called, we're going to run I Love VBA. And so I'm going to run the program, and then I'm going to call the program up and show you how we did it. So one thing that you could do here before we leave Hello World is we go back to Developer and you insert a button, and then so we're going to say, we're going to click on the Hello World, and we're going to say and then we're going to embolden it. So we're going to take out Hello World again, and we're just going to run it again. And so you've got Hello World again. So now you can put a little button in there. So rather than go into VBA every time you want to run the program, you can just click on the button. So I'm going to save this, save my work. Oh, it's already automatically saving. So I think we've already talked about Hello World. Yeah, we've already discussed Hello World. And we've already discussed Easy Macro. We've already discussed Hello World. Now we're going to make another program. It's going to be I Love VBA. So I'm going to run the program, and then I'm going to go over the code with you. So we're going to run I Love VBA. And then here we go. You've got 56 colors that you can use in VBA. And I've used all 56 colors. So these are all the colors that you can use in VBA. And I just thought that was really neat. And so I thought I'd make that program. And then if you want to do it again, what you do is you clear everything and then you run it again. But we're going to go into our modules. You say, I love VBA. And this is what it says. It says sub, I love VBA. And dim, so you're declaring a row as an integer. Dim, call, you're declaring call as integer. And dim, greeting as string. So row is an integer, call is an integer, and greeting is a string. And greeting is I love VBA. So call equals 1. For row equals 1 to 56, step 1. And the reason why is because you've got 56 colors that you can use in VBA. So that's why we're going to have 56, 1 to 56, step 1. Cells, row, call equals row. And so it starts out as 1. Cells, row, comma, call plus 1 equals greeting. So you're going to have the column is going to be your row, and your column plus 1 is going to be the next column down is your greeting, and your greeting is I love VBA. And you say cells, brackets, row, comma, column plus 1, and the font is bold, is true. And then you're going to say cells, row, comma, column plus 1 equals, and your font is your color index equals row. So you're going to have 56 color indexes because it's doing a for loop. And so since it's doing a for loop, it's going to be running 1 to 56. So you're going to have 56 color indexes. And then cells, comma, row, call plus 2 is your interior dot color index equals row. So then you're going to shade the cell and with the color. And then col equals column plus 1. So what that means is you're going to go to the next column. So if column equals 1, that was for your color 1. And then if column equals 2, that's for your color 2. And then you end sub. And so basically, I just thought that was really neat. And that's what I wanted to do, just to give you an example on things that you can do in VBA. So here's a real world example. And this is something basically that I do in my day job, but I have to use anonymized data. Obviously, I can't give you real data, so I'm giving you anonymized data. But this is the sort of thing that I do in my day job, as I calculate the waste. And so what I've done is I've calculated the weight of waste from April 24 all the way to August 26. And then so you can see that the weight's been decreasing, and that's something true that's been happening. But this is just anonymized data. It's fake data. But you can see the waste has actually been increasing. And when you make a chart, you can see that the line is going down. But what we're going to do is we need to use this data to make a monthly report. And then so we're going to make a monthly report, and we're going to analyze the weight analysis. So we're going to run the report. So the first thing that you need to know before you need to run the report is August 26 is row 30, and January 26 is row 23. So you're going to have to input row 30, and you're going to have to input row 23. So we say run weight analysis. It says enter the row for the month you wish to analyze. So it's 30. And you type OK. And then it says enter the row for the last January, which needs to be analyzed. And we're going to say 23. And you say OK. And then it prints all this information out for you. So you can see that here 30 is August 26 and 23 is January 26. So in order to run this program, you need to know the row numbers that you're going to be analyzing. And then so this is actually a program that I wrote in VBA for me to do my job, because I have to do monthly reports. And since I have to do monthly reports, I do monthly reports, quarterly reports, and annual reports actually. But this is something that I do every month. So August 26 is 8,000. July 26 is 9,000. January 26, is 12,000, and August 25 is 13,000. And so what we're doing is we're analyzing the date. So you take 8,000 minus 9,000 is negative 1,000. So that is, it means your waste has decreased 1,000 from July to August 26. And then 8,000 minus 12,000 is negative 4,000. So that means weight has decreased 4,000 from January to August 26. And then 8,000 minus 13,000 is negative 5,000. So that means that weight has decreased 5,000 from a year. And so basically, this isn't the only report I do. I do another report for cost. This is just a report for waste, but I also do a report for cost, which is very similar to this. And then I do other reports, like I have to calculate like treatment waste, incineration waste, and offensive waste. And then I have to do another where you calculate domestic waste, clinical waste, and other. And then I have another report where I have to calculate recycled waste, domestic waste. Recycled waste, domestic waste, and food waste. And so they'll come to me and they want me to analyze this data and only work 14 hours a week. So it's going to be very difficult for me to do it by hand. And even do it by hand, it's going to be subject to error. So I wrote a program so I can do it in the program. But even when you do the program, you still have to check. I had been checking every single value, but I think that since I've been doing this for a long time, I think I'm just going to start spot checking instead of checking each value. So that's another thing that you have to do. Like if you write a program, you have to check that program and make sure that that program is working properly. One thing that I will say, that if you are using modules in VBA, you should only work on the spreadsheet that you're actually working on, because if you have lots of different spreadsheets open, then VBA will get confused. And that's one thing that I found out. That was something that I found out today, whereas I was working on a training report, and then so it just wasn't working, and it worked before, I couldn't understand why it wasn't working, and it was because I had two other spreadsheets open, and since these two other spreadsheets were very complex spreadsheets that I personally didn't make, somebody else made them, it interfered with the VBA programming. So that's one thing that I would recommend you do, is if you're doing VBA programming, you just do it just on the spreadsheet or the workbook that you're on, and you close out the other workbooks. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over the code of the analyzed figures. That's the waste analysis. So this is your analyzed figures, and we're going to go over the code of that. So that's your subroutine, analyzed figures KG. You're going to dim row this month as integer, so you're declaring row this month. Dim row last month as integer, so dim means you're declaring a variable. Dim row year ago as integer. Dim row last January as integer. Dim this month as date. Dim last month as date. Dim last year as date. Dim last January as date. Dim this month figure as single. Dim last month figure as single. Dim last year figure as single. Dim last January figure as single. Dim diff month as single. Dim diff year as single. Dim diff January as single. Dim polarity month as string. Dim polarity year as string. Dim polarity January as string. And then so you get a box. Row this month. And then you're going to do an input box, which is please enter the row for the month you wish to analyze. And then row last month equals row this month minus 1. And row year ago equals row this month minus 12. And row last January, you're going to get an input box, and it's going to say, please enter the row for the last January, which needs to be analyzed. And said, this month figure is sells this row this month to value, and then last month figure equals cells row last month to dot value. Last year figure equals cells brackets row year ago comma to dot value, and last January figure equals cells brackets row last month January comma to value. So this month equals cells row this month comma 1 value. Last month equals cells row last month comma 1 value. Last year equals sales row year ago, comma 1 value. Last January equals sales row last month, row last January, comma 1 value. And so sales brackets 1. So 1 is going to be your row. So that's something that's different between VBA and Excel, because in Excel, you're going to say A1. And so the column is going to go before the row. That's what Excel is. But in VBA, it's the row first, and then you count the column. So sales brackets 1, 12 is value this month. Sales, brackets 1, 13 value equals last month. Sales brackets 1, 14 dot value equals last January. Sales brackets 1, 15 dot value equals last year. So sales bracket 2, so that means your row 2, 12 value is this month figure. Sales brackets 2, 13 dot value equals last month figure. Sales brackets 2, 14 dot value is last January figure, and sales brackets 2, 15 dot value is last year figure. And then so now you're going to calculate the differences. So diff month equals this month figure minus last month figure. Diff January equals this month figure minus last January figure. Diff year equals this month figure minus last year figure. And then so if the number is positive, it is an increase. If the number is negative, it is a decrease. So now we have an if-else statement. So if diff month greater than 0, then polarity month equals increased. Else polarity month equals decreased. End if. So you have another if statement. If diff January is greater than 0, then polarity January equals increased. Else polarity January equals decreased. End if. If diff year is greater than 0, then polarity year equals increased, else polarity year equals decreased. End if. So now you're going to say sales, brackets 4, 12, value is total waste weight and polarity month and last month and diff month and kg. Sales 5, brackets 5, 12 is value total waste weight plus polarity January and since January and diff January and kg. And sales bracket 6, 12 is value equals total waste weight plus polarity year plus last year plus diff year plus kg. And then you get a message box saying end of program, and that's end of sub. And so that's the code for this particular program that I have written. And so basically the other ones that I do are a lot more elaborate than this particular one, but they accomplish the same thing. But I just wanted to have an easy format for you to see. So you've covered declaring your variables, you've covered for loops, and you've covered if statements. So this is another report that I do. This is another report that I do every week, not every month, every week. It's a report that I do every week, and it's a scaled down version. I've anonymized the data, and so I've given you fake data, but the actual report that I do every week in my day job is similar to this. And so basically I was told that I had to do it, and I only work 14 hours a week, so there was no way that I could actually do it all of this in 14 hours a week. So I had to write a program to actually do it, because I couldn't do it in 14 hours a week. I couldn't do it. And I was told that I had to do it every week. So I couldn't do all of the other work that I'm given to do and do this manually. So that is why I automated it. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to run the report. I've got a little button. I put a little button in there last night, but in my day job, I don't put a little button in there. And the reason why is because I get a different spreadsheet every week, or actually 2 spreadsheets. I get 2 different spreadsheets every week, and then I have to manipulate those spreadsheets and use VLOOKUP and all kinds of other stuff to get them to work. And so there's no point me putting a button in there every week, because I get a different spreadsheet every week. So in theory, because you've covered the past lessons with me, in theory, I could use Power Pivot, but because I get a different spreadsheet every single week, I don't think even Power Pivot would be suitable, because it's less than 115 people that I'm dealing with. So I just use a spreadsheet and I use Power Pivot. But spreadsheet, and I use Excel. But if it was a lot of people, like hundreds of people or thousands of people, then it might be worthwhile me using Power Pivot. And I had actually considered using Power Pivot, but because I get the spreadsheet every week, and because it's less than 115 people, I decided just to stick with the program that I'm using. So I'm going to run this training report. That's what we're going to do. We're going to run a training report. It says the earliest training date is 26 October 26. So we're going to say, okay. Number of staff is 13. So we're going to say, okay. Number of training courses for each employee is 7. So we're going to say, okay. Total number of courses in this report is 91. So we're going to say, okay. And then say number of green courses is 44. Number of amber courses is 10. And number of red courses is 37. So I'll say, okay. So what's that's doing? And then you get a program that says end of program. So what's that is doing is what it's doing is giving you all this information. But one thing that I want to look at, and what we're going to do is we're going to say short training report. So we've got our short training report. So it says right here, get earliest date of training, but I want to do another one. I want to add this to it. And then it says get today's date. Today's date. And then you're going to say, and so I'm just doing this totally off the cuff. So I hope it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the data, because I'm going to try to run it again. So we're just going to clear all the data. And I'm going to hope for the best because I'm just doing this totally off the cuff. I'm going to try to run the report again. So today's date is 27 August 26. That's what I wanted to show. So we press OK. The earliest training date is 26 October 26. Number of staff is 13. Number of training courses for each employee is 7. Number of courses in this report is 91. And then you have the number of green courses is 44. That is like the number of people who don't have training coming up soon, or the number of courses that are not coming up soon. The total number of amber courses is 10. So that's 10 courses that will be coming up soon. And total number of red courses are 37. And so that's 37 courses that you need to do ASAP because it's past its expiry date. And then you say end of program. And I want to say I have to do a program similar to this every single week. Every single week I do a program with this. So you get your report. So we're just going to say name, team, appraisal due, course title, course due. And I actually do this every single week. I do this every single week. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to print their name, their team, the date that the appraisal is due, the course title, and the course due date. And then you're just going to, if the course has to be done, it's past its due date, then it's going to say ASAP. And then if it hasn't passed its due date, but it needs to be done within the last 60 days, then it's going to give you the date that it needs to be done. And then so you've got green is 44, amber is 10, red is 37. So you've got your statistics. I do that every single week. I do something that's a spreadsheet that's bigger than this, but it's got the same general idea. So this is the subroutine. It's called Sub Short Training Report. And this routine, it makes a chart every week. Makes a weekly table. It's not a chart, it's a table of training and appraisals. So you're going to declare all of these variables. I as integer, row num as integer, row training as integer, call num as integer, count non-blank row as integer, count non-blank call as integer, name as string, team as string, appraisal date as date, training course as string, course date as variant, tote courses as variant, course date as variant, tote courses as integer, tote green as integer, tote amber as integer, tote red as integer. So we're going to declare the training date as date, and the training date equals date plus 60. So the training date is date plus 60 days. So we're going to get today's date, which we've already put in today, is message box. Today's date is the date. And then you're going to get the earliest date of training. So message box, the earliest training date is training date. Now you're going to count the number of porters. So count non-blank rows equals 0. Row num equals 2 because row number 1 is your headers. So you're going to start with row number 2. Do while cells brackets row num comma 1 dot value is not blank. And so we're doing a do while loop. So in the last program we did a for loop, And in this program, we're doing a do-while loop. Row num equals row num plus 1. Count non-blank row equals count non-blank row plus 1. A loop. And then message box, number of staff, and count non-blank row. So now you're going to count the number of courses. Count non-blank column. It's going to be worksheet function count A brackets range E2 to M2. So it says in E2 to M2. So this says E is your first one, F, G, H, and it says E2 to M2. So it's really E2 to K2, really. So it says, because M2 to K2, it says 7. Let me see, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so really, it says E2 to M2, but that's not correct. It is E2 to K2. So we're just going to change that. I don't know how that happened, but it's E2 to K2. We're going to save it. Total number. You're going to say, calculate the total number of courses analyzed in this report. And it says total courses equals count let me see if I can make this bigger. So it says, so we got our E2 to K2, and then we saved that. It said message box, number of training courses for each employee is count non-blank columns. Calculate the total number of courses analyzed in this report. Total courses equals count non-blank row times count non-blank columns. Message box, total number of courses in this report is total courses. Create a new form to list the appraisal and training required for each porter. And so basically that's what I have to do. So row num equals count non-blank row plus 7. So what it is when you have a blank row, then it's going to 7, when you get to your last blank row, 7 rows below that is where I'm going to write the report. And it says row training equals row num, tote green equals 0, tote amber equals 0, tote red equals 0. And so now we've got another for loop. For I equals 2 to count non-blank row plus 1, step 1. And then you're going to have a for loop underneath inside the first for loop. For column equals 5 to 11, step 1. So just going to say here, we're going to say, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 5 to 11. Step 1. Course date equals cells, brackets, I, comma, column, dot value. If course date equals not attained, then. So you've got an if statement within the second for loop. Name equals cells, brackets, I, comma, 2, value, cells, brackets, row num, comma, 2, dot value equals name. Team equals cells, brackets, I, comma, 3, dot value, cells, brackets, row num, comma, 3, dot value equals team. Appraisal date equals sales brackets I, comma 4 dot value. Sales brackets row num, comma 4 dot value. Appraisal date. Training course equals sales brackets I, comma col num dot value. Sales brackets row training, comma 5 dot value equals training course. Sales brackets row training, comma 6 dot value equals ASAP. For training, row training equals row training plus 1. Tote red equals tote red plus 1. And it says else if course date is blank, then I just got a comment in there that says do nothing. Okay. So basically, just in case anything ever comes up as blank, which sometimes that happens, just do nothing. Else if course date is less than date, then name equals sales brackets I, comma 2 dot value. Sales brackets row num, comma 2 dot value equals name. Team equals sales brackets I, comma 3 dot value. Sales brackets row num, comma 3 dot value equals team. Appraisal date equals sales brackets I, comma 4 dot value. Sales row num, comma 4 dot value equals appraisal date. So sales brackets row training, comma 3 dot value equals team. Training course equals sales brackets 1, comma column number equals value dot value. Sales brackets row training, comma 5 dot value equals training course. Sales brackets row training, comma 6 dot value equals ASAP. Row training equals row training plus 1. Tote red equals tote red plus 1. So if course date is less than training date and course date is greater than date. So on the first LF, we had if course date equals not attained. And in the second one, we said if course date is less than date. And now we say if course date is less than training date and course date is greater than date, then name equals sales brackets I, comma 2 dot value. Sales brackets row num, comma 2 dot value equals name. Team equals sales brackets I, comma 3 dot value. Sales brackets row num, comma 3 dot value equals team. Appraisal date equals sales brackets I, comma 4 dot value. Sales brackets row num, comma 4 dot value equals appraisal date. Sales brackets row training, comma 3 dot value equals team. Training course equals sales brackets I, comma column dot value. Sales brackets row training, comma 5 dot value equals training course. Sales brackets row training, comma 6 dot value equals course date. Row training equals row training plus 1. Tote amber equals tote amber plus 1. And else, do nothing. And then you say indif. And then you have next, because you're in a for loop. So you're in the second for loop. And it says row num equals row training. And then you have next again. So we're going to calculate the statistics for the course. Row stats equals row training plus 5. Tote green equals tote courses minus tote amber plus tote red. message box. The total number of green courses and tote green and VBA new line, and total number of amber courses and tote amber and VB new line, and total number of red courses and tote red. So cells brackets row stats, comma 2 dot value equals statistics. Cells brackets row stats plus 1 comma 3 dot value equals green. Cells brackets row stats plus 2 comma 3 dot value equals amber. Cells brackets row stats plus 3 comma 3 dot value equals red. So cells brackets row stats plus 1 comma 4 dot value equals tote green. Cells brackets row stats plus 2 comma 4 dot value equals tote amber. Cells brackets row stats plus 3 comma 4 equals tote red, and tote green equals tote courses minus row training. And this says end of program, end of sub. So we've gone through the code of this program that I've written, which is for a real world problem. So real world problem is something that I do every single week. It's something that I do every single week. And I had to write the program because I was told to do it all manually. And there was no way that I could do it all manually in 14 hours a week. So that's why I wrote this program, to do it. So I'm going to run the training report just one more time because I made some changes to the code. So we've got today's date. We've got the earliest training date. We've got, it says number of staff, it says 1. Well, that's a problem right there. Courses for each employee is 7. Courses for each report is 7. So obviously we've got a problem. Something has happened. So it just said number of staff, and that's another problem that you get to, like when you make changes to code. So it said E2 to K2 says non-blank. It says count the number of porters. Count non-blank row equals 0. Row num equals 2. Do while cells row num 1 is not equal to 0. Row num equals row num plus 1. So something has happened. So it did the 1. It did the 1. So let's see what we've got here. Clear contents. Let's try it again. So that's what happened. Somehow or other, the 1 didn't get in there, and that's what happened. So we'll try it again. Today's date, earliest training date, number of staff is 13, number of training courses, total training courses, green, amber, red, end of program. So we've got it again. We've got what we wanted. So you just type in name, team, appraisal date, course title, course date. So that works, and basically I want to save that. But what I want to see here is I want to copy this message box into program. I want to copy this into program. Copy that. And I want to say analyze figures. And it says message box end of program. So that gave me an end of program. So let's just come back here to analyze waste stats. And we're going to clear the data. We're going to clear the contents, and we're going to be looking for row number 30 and row number 23. So we're going to run it. It's going to say 30, 23, and then we've got a message that says end of program 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say because another thing that you always need to do is you always need to make sure that you annotate your code. You annotate your code, that you like put comments in your code, so if somebody else has to actually come and look at the code, then that person who has actually come to look at the code, he'll know what you've done. So that's why in this one I said end of program message, and you get a message box that says end of program. So I think that concludes this lesson, which is the final lesson in my advanced Excel course. I think that we covered a lot in VBAs. We covered making a macro, which I wasn't really thrilled about doing, but because I don't like to make macros. But I did show you how to make a macro. I showed you how to make a module, say hello world. Showed you how to make a module that says I love VBA. I showed you how to do a real world problem to analyze waste. And I showed you how to cover another real world problem to actually analyze training and appraisal dates. And these are things, the waste is something that I do every month, and the training is something that I do every week. So I hope that you have gotten something out of this lesson. This is the end of the advanced Excel course because I've covered real world problems in it. And my next course I think I'm going to make a VBA course if you're interested in that. So thank you so much for bearing with me. See you next course.